Hi, this is Unit 8, Lesson 3, Properties of Angles in a Circle. And we're going to talk about the relationship between a central angle and an inscribed angle, and then also the relationship between any inscribed angles in a circle. I know that there's some new terminology there, so we're going to talk about the terminology before we actually get into the math. So first of all, we have to know what an arc is. So in the first two lessons, if I have 2 points on a circle, and if I draw a point across or a line across, that's called a chord. And that's what we talked about in lessons 1 and 2. But what happens if I don't want to draw a point or a line across, and if I want to go around the circle? Well, a portion of the circle is called an arc. I'm still going from point A to point B, but I'm going along the circle. Now notice there's always a short way around, and there's always a long way around. Okay, so the short way around is called the minor arc, and the long way around is called a major arc. And we call the arc AB, minor arc AB, because it's the distance from A to B. And in the longer distance around is the major arc AB. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take this minor arc AB, and most of the times we're going to talk about the minor arc. We're going to talk a little bit about the major, but the majority it is called we're going to look at the minor arc. So we have a word here called the central angle. Well, central angle means I start at A. I don't go along the circle to get to B. I actually go to the center. I take like a little detour. I go to the center and then I go down to B. So I start at A, I take a little detour, and then I go down to B. This right here, the angle that it's formed, is called a central arc. And this is just a fancy word right here. It's subtended by minor arc AB because it starts at A and ends at B, but it goes to the center. Okay, so that's what that fancy word means. It just means it starts and ends at AB, but it takes a little detour to the center first. Okay, now an inscribed angle means I still am dealing with AB, still starting and finishing at AB, but I'm now going to a point on the major arc, anywhere on the major arc of AB, and then back down to B. So I still start with A and end with B, but I'm going to take a little detour to the other side of the circle and back down. And it could be anywhere on the circle. It could go here and then down. It can go here as long as I'm going and I'm taking a little detour from here to here. I'm still starting with A and I'm ending at B. Okay, so those are the definitions of central. If I'm taking a little detour to the center and then to B, it's called a central angle. If I'm going from A to B, but I'm taking a little detour to the other side of the circle along that major arc, along that, like the longest side, and then back down to B, that's called an inscribed angle. Okay, this word right here, subtended, means I start at A, I go somewhere, and then I end at B. So subtended by the minor arc AB, because I'm subtended by here. That's your arc. Okay? So here, let's see, name the following from the diagram. The central angle subtended by arc CB. Okay, so here, let's do this. This is my minor. I should put minor arc. We just assume that if it's subtended that you're always talking about the minor arc. Okay, so this is the arc we're talking about right here. Okay, so let's see. I'll erase that now that I've made a mess. Okay, so this right here, I like to highlight which arc I'm talking about because now I have to start at C. Central means I go to the center and then I end at B. So this is the angle that I'm talking about. That's the central angle. I took a little detour to the center and I end at B. So the angle is angle COB. Now, if you don't remember back from, I don't even know, I think it's grade 6, you can also label the angle BOC. It doesn't matter which point along that minor arc that you start with. You start with B and go to the center and end at C, or you can start at C, go to the center and end at B. It doesn't really matter. When you label an angle, the vertex right here, that's called the vertex, is always in the center. Okay, so let's erase this. Let's see what the second question holds for us. The central angle and inscribed angle subtended by arc AD. Again, we always assume that if it's subtended, it's the minor arc we're talking about, so the shortest distance from A to D. Okay, so there's the shortest distance. That's the arc that we're talking about. Subtended, again, it starts at A and ends at D, or vice versa. So let's talk about the central angle. So let's start at A and go to the center and go to D. So A, O, D. And I'm not going to talk about the fact that I can reverse the A and the D. Okay, so you guys should already know that. So I'm just going to say angle A, O, D, because it starts at A and ends at D, and it goes to the center. The inscribed angle, okay, so we have two choices, because A goes to B, but does it end at D? No. We can go A to C to D, and that would be the inscribed angle. Okay, so some people like to use highlighters. I'm going to just use my highlighter. Some people like to highlight the angle. That's fine. Starting at A, going to some point on the circle, and ending at D. That's fine. Okay, let me get my pen back. So angle A, C, D. Now if you notice, CB, notice that C is, when you're labeling your angle, C and B. Okay. Noticing AD, A and D, A and D, it always has to be the first and the third letter. So just that can be like a little double check for you. Okay, so let's erase all this. And let's talk about the inscribed angle subtended by a semicircle. Okay, so we have a semicircle. Here's a diameter that will cut the circle in half. And this is a diameter that cuts the circle in half. So let's see which one we're talking about. Again, if we're subtended, that means we start and end along that diameter. So if I go A to C, I don't end at B. It just stops at C. So there's no subtending there. I don't even know if I said that properly. There's no angle subtended by the semicircle there. But let's talk about this diameter. So if I start at D and I go to A and I end at C, that would be an inscribed angle that's subtended by a semicircle. And a semicircle is a line, sorry, it would have to be like a diameter because it cuts the circle in half. And the right angle looks like it's the same thing. B, A, C. Okay. Looks like that's the only right angle that would come close. Okay, so let's do this one and then I will stop this video and go on to the other property. So in each circle, identify a central angle and an inscribed angle subtended by the same arc. So I'm not going to tell you what the arc is, but it says to shade it in. Okay, so we have a few choices here. Okay, so we have that arc, AC, but there's no line other than, there's really no line that starts at C, goes somewhere and ends at A. But there is an arc right here. Sorry, I don't know why my pen's acting funny. There's your arc. Now if I start at A and I go to C and I end at B, that would be an angle, an inscribed angle. Angle A, C, B. The minor arc would be BA or AB, doesn't matter. And the central angle, if I start at A and I go to the center O and I go down to B, AOB. Okay. Now this one's a little bit tougher. If you ever get stuck, go to the center and draw the two lines. Okay, well that must be your arc, right? Because that's the only place where it starts and finishes. Now, if you like, I'm going to erase this, and I wonder if, I'm going to see if I can flip this one. I know that I can flip one of them. Okay, I'm going to flip it. Sometimes it's easier to flip it upside down so your minor arc's on the bottom so that you can actually see the point. Okay, if that helps you, please feel free to turn your paper around. Always rotate your circles to give it a different perspective. But I think I'm going to be able just to answer that. Okay, so I'm going to shade in the arc QR, because that is the arc I'm talking about. Because from Q, I can go to the center and go to R. So angle Q R O. And look here, I can go from Q, go to P, and end at R. So angle Q P R would be an inscribed angle because it goes to a point on the circle and it ends at R. Let's see. Yes, now we're getting into the properties. So I'm going to stop right there. I don't want to make the videos too long. So join me for part 2.